Beneath the surface of the churning waters that surround Alcatraz Island, a silent sentinel slumbered. Unbeknownst to the countless tourists who'd snapped photos of the Rock and the ferries that plied the bay, a piece of history lay hidden, waiting to be unearthed. This wasn't just any discarded debris or forgotten relic. This was a safe, and its discovery sent ripples of excitement and intrigue through the historical community. It all started innocently enough. The date was October 26th. A team of marine surveyors, contracted by the San Francisco Maritime National Park Association, were conducting a routine seabed survey. Their mission: to map the underwater topography surrounding Alcatraz. They used sonar technology, sophisticated instruments that send sound waves bouncing off the ocean floor, creating detailed images of what lies beneath. The equipment diligently scanned the seabed, registering the expected contours, the subtle variations in depth, and the occasional anomaly, a discarded tire, a piece of lost fishing gear, the typical flotsam and jetsam of a busy waterway. But then, something different emerged on their screens. A distinct, unnatural shape appeared. A clear, defined, geometric form stood out against the more organic, undulating landscape of the ocean floor. The lead surveyor, a seasoned veteran named Dr. Emily Carter, immediately recognized the anomaly. It wasn't a rock formation. It wasn't a natural geological feature. This was something manufactured, something deliberately placed. The sonar image suggested a rectangular object, roughly the size of a large suitcase, sitting squarely on the seabed. It was located in relatively shallow water, approximately 40 feet deep, about 200 yards off the western side of Alcatraz Island, near the old warden's residence. Intrigued, Dr. Carter directed the team to investigate further. They deployed a remotely operated vehicle, ROV, equipped with a high-definition camera to get a closer look. The images transmitted back to the survey vessel were grainy, but the shape became clearer. It was a safe. An old, heavily corroded safe, encrusted with barnacles and marine growth, but unmistakably a safe. The metal box had been submerged for decades, now a silent participant in the underwater ecosystem, a stark and peculiar addition to the marine landscape. News of the discovery spread like wildfire amongst the survey team. The vessel was a flurry of hushed excitement, each member exchanging their own theories. What was a safe doing on the seabed near Alcatraz? Who had placed it there, and why? What secrets did it hold? The possibilities seemed endless. Dr. Carter, determined to maintain a professional approach, immediately contacted the National Park Service. This wasn't something they could simply dismiss. The location, the nature of the object, all screamed for further investigation. The Park Service officials were equally intrigued. Alcatraz has a way of captivating the human imagination, and the discovery of a mysterious safe only added to the allure. The immediate priority was securing the site. A temporary exclusion zone was established around the safe to prevent any unauthorized access. Divers were dispatched to assess the situation more thoroughly. They confirmed the ROV's findings. The safe was indeed a substantial object made of heavy-gauge steel with a thick reinforced door and a complex locking mechanism. The corrosion was extensive, but the overall structure seemed relatively intact. The divers meticulously documented the safe's location, its condition, and its surrounding environment. They took photographs and video footage, creating a detailed record of the discovery. The images sent back to the surface were captivating. The safe, illuminated by the divers' lights, stood out against the dark, murky waters. It was a relic from another time, a mysterious box holding untold secrets, forever frozen in the cold embrace of the San Francisco Bay. The question of how the safe ended up there loomed large. Was it connected to the infamous Alcatraz prison, perhaps linked to a daring escape attempt or a hidden cache of contraband? Or was it something completely unrelated, a discarded object from a bygone era, a casualty of the bay's turbulent past? Speculation ran rampant. Some theorized that the safe was part of a forgotten treasure, a stash of ill-gotten gains hidden away by a notorious gangster. Others believed it held evidence of a long-forgotten crime, a secret that someone wanted to keep buried. At the bottom of the bay, of course, the most tantalizing theory connected the safe to the infamous 1962 escape of Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers. Could this be a piece of their audacious plan, a secret stash left behind in the hopes of retrieval? The thought was intoxicating, conjuring up images of the escapees, carefully lowering the safe into the water, securing their future freedom within its steel confines. The possibility that this discovery could shed new light on one of the most enduring mysteries in American history was enough to send chills down the spines of even the most seasoned historians. Whatever its origins, the safe represented a puzzle, a historical enigma waiting to be solved. It was a physical manifestation of the untold stories lurking beneath the waves, a reminder that even in the most familiar places, secrets can still be found, just waiting to be unearthed. The world watched, eager to see what this silent sentinel would reveal, what long-lost secrets would finally come to light. The discovery had sparked immediate intrigue, raising countless questions about its origins and its potential connection to the dark and storied history of Alcatraz Island. The real adventure was about to begin. When the details of this strange object became public, all attention snapped back to one of the most famous prison breaks in American history, the 1962 escape of Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers, John and Clarence, a story practically woven into the fabric of American legend. This daring event had long captured the public's imagination. It was said to be one of the boldest escapes ever attempted, involving months of meticulous tunneling, the crafting of life vests, and the creation of a raft fashioned from more than 50 stolen raincoats. That's right, folks. Raincoats! Imagine the dedication, the sheer audacity of that plan. Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary, of course, was no ordinary lockup. Known as the Rock, it stood stark and foreboding on a small, isolated island in the churning, frigid waters of San Francisco Bay. Its very location was chosen specifically to prevent escapes, as the freezing water, treacherous currents, and powerful tides made swimming to freedom nearly impossible. Before it became a prison, the island served as a military fort in the 1850s, later becoming a place to hold military prisoners. By 1934, it had been transformed into a high-security federal prison meant for the most dangerous and unmanageable inmates, the troublemakers, the rule breakers, those who caused problems wherever they were sent. Think of it as the end of the line. Life inside Alcatraz was notoriously harsh and tightly controlled. The prison's main building, completed in the early 1900s, contained small, cold cells, a dining hall, a hospital, a library, and housing for the guards. The cells themselves were narrow, barred with thick steel, and kept under constant watch. Guards performed head counts up to 13 times a day, and armed officers watched from elevated positions. Talk about feeling scrutinized. Every person entering the prison was screened with metal detectors, and prisoners' privileges depended entirely on their good behavior. Misconduct meant losing work opportunities, visits, and other small freedoms. It was a system designed to crush the spirit and maintain absolute control. Some of the most infamous criminals in the country called Alcatraz home, including Al Capone and Machine Gun Kelly. The most dangerous inmates were sent to D Block, where solitary confinement in the hole meant being locked alone in a dark, empty cell for days or even weeks. The prison's focus was not on rehabilitation, but on absolute, unwavering control. Security systems were constantly upgraded with electric fences and reinforced locks. Yet even the Rock was not immune to the relentless forces of nature. The eye, salt air and ocean water slowly but surely damaged the buildings, corroding the metal and weakening the concrete. By the 1960s, Maintenance costs had become astronomical. The writing was on the wall, and on March 21, 1963, the prison was officially closed. A chapter of American penal history came to an end. But of course, the legend of Alcatraz only grew. Now, let's rewind a little. On the night of June 11, 1962, Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers vanished from Alcatraz. They were there, then they were gone. Poof! Just like that. Their bodies were never found. The FBI eventually closed the case in 1979, concluding that they had drowned in the bay. Case closed, right? Not so fast. In 2014, tidal simulations carried out by the Dutch National Institute for Water and Atmospheric Research threw a wrench into that neat conclusion. These simulations showed that under the right tidal conditions, a westward drift could have carried the raft toward the Marin Headlands or Angel Island. The escapees might actually have had a chance. And here's where things get really interesting. The location of the recently discovered safe falls within this very same tidal corridor, an area that some independent investigators and former federal agents have long believed was part of a possible escape route. Coincidence? Perhaps. But it's a coincidence that has fueled decades of speculation. Consider this. Retired FBI profiler Joel Maravich, who worked on cold case reviews in the 1990s, pointed out that if the safe was part of the escape plan, it may have been hidden in a place where no casual swimmer or fisherman would stumble upon it. It would have to be concealed, yet still accessible enough to be recovered, perhaps even during low tide. What makes this connection even more intriguing is the fact that no confirmed belongings of the escapees, such as clothing, flotation devices, or personal items, were ever recovered. The only item even remotely linked to them was a piece of a life preserver that washed ashore miles away, with no sign of the men themselves. Where did everything else go? Investigators in 1962 found evidence of meticulous planning. There was the accordion converted into a bellows for inflating the raft, and the use of prison blueprints to navigate the shadowy corridors of Alcatraz. One theory, never proven, suggested they may have had accomplices waiting outside. If that were true, hiding a supply cache in a safe would have made perfect sense for their survival after leaving the island. It's all about having a backup plan, a contingency in case things didn't go exactly as they hoped. Then, in 2018, a letter surfaced claiming to be from John Anglin himself. The letter stated that he and his brother had lived for decades under false identities and were now ready to surrender. The FBI examined the letter but, frustratingly, could neither confirm nor dismiss its authenticity. The mystery deepened. And here's another puzzling detail. No records from the prison, the Coast Guard, or civilian archives mention a safe being lost in that area. It's like it just appeared out of thin air. According to marine experts, the safe's position and the depth at which it was buried suggest it had been underwater for at least 50 years, placing its likely submersion within a decade of the escape. That's a pretty suggestive time frame. So let's recap. The safe's location is striking. It sits directly in the path many believe the escapees could have taken if they survived. Add to that the complete lack of an official explanation for its presence, and you have a mystery that's both perplexing and deeply compelling. Who put it there? What was its purpose? And most importantly, could it hold the key to unlocking the truth about what happened to Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers after they vanished into the night? But who were these men, really? And just how did they manage to plan their escape and successfully execute it against all odds? That's a story worth exploring. One of the most tempting theories, the one that's really grabbed headlines, links the safe directly to the infamous 1962 Alcatraz escape. We're talking about Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers, John and Clarence. These guys vanished into thin air, defying the supposedly impenetrable walls of the rock. Could this safe be a piece of their daring escape plan, a hidden cache waiting for them on the outside? The contents themselves are intriguing. We've got waterlogged money, old photos, and those hand-drawn maps. It's not just random junk. It feels purposeful. Whoever stashed this safe clearly wanted to keep something safe and secure. Was it emergency money for a new life? Were the photos potential new identities? And those maps? Were they escape routes or maybe locations of accomplices? Let's break it down. The money, nearly $1,800 from the late 50s and early 60s, was a significant amount back then. Enough to get you started, to disappear without raising too many eyebrows. The photos, that's where it gets interesting. 3 men posing with a 50s Ford Fairlane. Classic getaway car, right? The faces are faded, but could they be Morris and the Anglins? The car has no plates, a detail that screams intentional concealment. Now those maps, that's the real puzzle. Hand-drawn maps of San Francisco's stormwater tunnels, along with handwritten notes. Was this part of their escape route? Did they plan to navigate the tunnels after reaching the mainland? It would be a risky move, crawling through those dark, cramped spaces, but maybe they saw it as a necessary evil, a way to avoid detection, at least initially. It's worth mentioning there was an inmate who used to work on city plans of San Francisco that was transferred off the island just months prior to the escape. Coincidence? Maybe. Intriguing? Absolutely. But here's a critical question. If the safe was part of the escape plan, why was it never retrieved? Did something go wrong? Did the escapees drown in the bay, as the FBI concluded? Or did they make it to shore only to abandon the safe due to unforeseen circumstances? Maybe they were spotted, forced to flee without collecting their hidden stash. Another theory suggests outside help. Did Morris and the Anglin brothers have accomplices waiting for them? Someone who planted the safe, providing them with supplies and a means of escape once they reached the mainland? We can't rule it out. There were whispers of outside support, rumors of sympathetic individuals willing to assist the escapees. The official story, the FBI's version, is that the men drowned in the frigid waters of the San Francisco Bay. They say the currents were too strong, the water too cold. But some experts disagree. Recent tidal simulations suggest it was possible for them to reach land under the right conditions. If they did survive, where did they go? Did they use the money in the safe to start new lives, far from the reach of the law? Did they change their identities, disappearing into the vastness of society? We can only speculate. The lack of concrete evidence has fueled countless theories and conspiracy stories over the years. It's also crucial to notice that no family members have ever been linked to the story, indicating it was more than just some missing relatives. But let's step back for a moment. What if the safe has nothing to do with the Alcatraz escape? What if it's connected to something else entirely? Alcatraz wasn't just a prison, it was an island community with guards, administrators, support staff, and their families. Could the safe have belonged to someone working at Alcatraz? Maybe a guard involved in some kind of illicit activity, using the safe to store ill-gotten gains. Maybe a corrupt official hiding evidence of wrongdoing. We know Alcatraz had its share of problems, including the constant smuggling of goods and drugs. Could the safe have been part of a larger criminal enterprise, using the prison as a base of operations? It's not beyond the realm of possibility. The San Francisco Bay has a long and storied history, filled with tales of smugglers, bootleggers, and shady characters. During Prohibition, it was a hotbed of illegal activity, with boats running liquor in the dead of night. Even after Prohibition ended, the Bay continued to be a haven for criminal activity. Could the safe be linked to this darker side of San Francisco? History? Perhaps it was dropped from a boat during a police chase, or hidden by smugglers trying to evade detection. The possibilities are endless. Even more dark, during the Alcatraz era, the infamous Zodiac killer was running loose in San Francisco. Could this steel box and its contents be connected to this case? While it would be a major coincidence, it can't be totally ruled out. Let's look at the location where it was found and consider environmental factors. The safe was discovered near the historic dock of Alcatraz, in a shallow depression on the seabed. Marine experts estimate that it had been submerged for at least 50 years, placing its submersion within a decade of the escape. But how did it get there? San Francisco Bay is known for its strong currents and unpredictable tides. It's possible that the safe was dislodged from its original location and carried by the currents to its final resting place. It may have been dropped from a boat further out in the bay, drifting for miles before settling near Alcatraz. Understanding all of these factors will be key to unlocking the safe's secrets. Oceanographers and marine archaeologists are studying the tides, currents, and sediment patterns in the area to determine how the safe might have traveled over the years. The discovery has also drawn the attention of federal authorities. Even though the FBI officially closed the Alcatraz escape case decades ago, they're taking this new development seriously. They've described the safe as a potentially significant artifact of historical and criminal interest, signaling their intent to investigate further. The National Park Service, which manages Alcatraz Island, is also involved. They're treating the discovery with caution, recognizing the historical and cultural significance of the site. They're working closely with experts to ensure that the safe and its contents are properly preserved and analyzed. Retired FBI profiler Joel Maravich, who has worked on cold case reviews in the 1990s, has his own theory. He speculates that if the safe was part of the escape plan, it may have been hidden in a location that was both accessible and inconspicuous, a place where it wouldn't be easily found by casual swimmers or fishermen, yet close enough to be recovered during low tide. Ultimately, the truth about the safe may never be fully known. It may remain a mystery, adding another layer of intrigue to the already captivating story of Alcatraz. But one thing is certain: the discovery has reignited the debate, reminding us that some mysteries refuse to stay buried.